Hello, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Green Screen. As you can see, there's no green screen behind me, and it's daytime. And the reason why I'm filming in the daytime when I normally film at night is because we are supposed to get some really good weather here in Northern Virginia. It's supposed to get up to 70. And I would like to get out and do my 3 mile fast walking slash jog because I've been on hibernation mode and it's time to get off hibernation mode because if there's I want to keep the doctors out of my business as much as possible. And if keeping the doctors out of my business means that I go for a 3 mile walk and sweat my brains out, I'm going to do it. All right. Because I'm really just fine with taking my vitamin D supplements and my hair vitamins and my and my probiotics. And I'm kind of proud of that, and I want to maintain that. So I get my ass out there. So this is the first opportunity in which we're having really great weather, and I want to take advantage of it. So yeah, so now you can see my office a little bit better. All right, this is what it looks like during the daytime. So for this episode, I know the last time I spoke on for the an episode from Behind the Green Screen, I said that I was going to cover all of my reading list for the year 1999, and it is a beautiful reading list, and I will cover it, but not for this episode because in thinking about that episode, something a book that means so much to me popped into my head, and I felt like I wanted to cover that before I covered the reading list from that summer. And this book empowered me in a way that other books in that I've read have not. Because normally when I read books is to be entertained. I love mysteries, and that's another green screen episode, which I will cover all the books, the mysteries that I really enjoyed, because they take me to places that I probably will never see in real life. So, so I'm normally a fiction reader, but I would have to say that this is one of the few nonfiction books that I have enjoyed, have learned from, and have taken things that I've learned in that book and applied them in real life. And by doing that, it empowered me as a female. So I was living primarily in the suburbs, and that automatically means that you need a car to get to work. So I had this Dodge Shadow that I bought when I was in the Navy because if you remember, I settled in Connecticut after being discharged from the submarine base in Groton. So when I was in the Navy, I got this Dodge Shadow from a used car dealership. And when I got out, I was so naive about cars. That car was my first car. And I really didn't know about maintenance or anything like that. Not one iota. So getting out, I was on my own. And so that book I found because back in the days, I used to haunt Barnes and Noble and Borders. Remember Borders? Oh, I miss those bookstores. But in any event, I would go to these bookstores and go immediately to the discount racks, where they would have books marked down for incredibly cheap. And I think that's how I found this book, but I can't speak to it. But this book empowered me in like no other book. And it's called Everything Women Always Wanted to Know About Cars but Didn't Know Who to Ask. And it was by Leslie Hazelton. So I bought this book, and normally before I make a purchase, I will stand there and read the first page actually. If it doesn't grab me by the first page, then I'm not buying it, regardless of how much it cost. But this one I felt like was useful because I was a single mom. And again, like I said, I was responsible for that car. and I didn't know anything about the car. The car was a complete mystery to me. So whenever I needed to go in and have something done, I always felt like I was at the mercy of the mechanics who are of course, let's be real. I've yet to meet a female mechanic. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but I've never met one. Every mechanic I've ever dealt with was a male. Any dealer, car dealer I've ever dealt with was a male. And I'm not exaggerating. Women are targets. We're seen as suckers, especially mechanics. They start throwing all these terms at you, and they think, and they might be right that, women don't know whatever terms they're being thrown at them. So they agree to it, and they rob Peter to pay Paul to pay this mechanic to fix their car because this guy sounds like he knows what he's doing. And so you're at the mercy of these men. And I was tired of that. So when I found this book, I said, here's a chance for me to stop feeling like a victim every time I go and walk into a dealership or walk into a repair shop. I just want to stop feeling like a victim. So that's when I got this book and I read it cover to cover. And I felt so emboldened. I felt so emboldened to start looking at my car, looking at the parts of the engine, looking under the hood, looking under the car, understanding how everything worked together to make this car go. This book helped me. I didn't know what a Chilton's manual was, and I had worked with a whole bunch of guys. See, they don't like to share certain information, okay? They like to keep it to themselves because what good are they if they have, if we don't need to go to them about how to do anything about a car, right? What good are they? What good are they? So I wanted at that point, if we can't go to them for our cars, there's only one other thing they're good for. I'm sorry. I digress. All right. So I loved this book so much that I wrote to Leslie Hazelton to tell her how great I thought her book was and how it helped me. And she was nice enough to write me back. So this is the postcard. Yeah, okay, you can see that better now. Here's the postcard that she sent. And then here's her nice note saying, and this was my address in Connecticut, basically saying, thank you for writing to me and letting me, know that my book was helpful to you. Um, actually, I do know it was 1996 that I bought this book because that's the postmark on this postcard. I don't know if you can see it, but it's 1996. All right. And apparently she lived in Seattle, Washington. I don't know if she still lives there. I don't know. But yeah, so that's when I wrote her in 1996. This is when I got this book. And as a matter of fact, she says that she was trying to get the publisher to allow her to do a second edition, but she wasn't able to sell the idea. And I haven't really followed up, and she has written other books, but I haven't really followed up to see if she did do a part two, excuse me, to this. So this book empowered me to look at my car, actually lift up the hood, and understand what it was I was looking at. And from that, I felt empowered to go and change the oil on my Dodge Shadow, which I did. I got everything I needed. She outlined it all in this book. And I understood what a Chilton's manual was for the first time in my life, understood, you know, how important, or not important, but what a valuable resource Chilton's was, because depending on your car, you can understand everything that you needed to know from a Chilton's manual. like and parts that you would need if this broke down or that broke down. You go to your Chiltons, you look for the year, make, and model of your car, and voila, you can find all the parts that you need, including like gap, spark plugs. So I was changing the oil on my car. I drained the oil. I got the filter. I would put oil along the gasket of the filter, screw that thing in very gently, fill it up with a gallon of oil. And I would do all of that when I felt that my car was a little sluggish. I even replaced the spark plugs, because back then it was recommended that if you change the oil on your car, you should also look at your spark plugs, see if that's firing okay. And if it's not, replace them. So I learned how to replace the spark plugs in my Dodge Shadow. I learned how to gap the spark plugs. And I was doing that and saving myself money, but also saving myself the headache, because I could do this on the weekends. I could shoo the boys out of the house and I could just get under the car and do what I needed to do. And that was it. So that's why that book, or this book, is really, really special to me. And you can tell that I use this book. Like, look at the grease mark on the page. Look how worn it is. I really did use this book, you know? And I guess it sort of set me on the path on making me realize that I wasn't a complete idiot and that I could understand some mechanical stuff, because I always connected anything mechanical to math. And because I'm so horrible at math, I have this false logic that being bad at math means I can't understand anything mechanical. And I know it's stupid, but that's how I thought at the time, because I didn't have anybody to tell me different. I had me to tell me different. And so that's why this book is doubly special to me, because the author took time out of her day to respond to my encouraging, effusive, loving note of appreciation on something that she did, that, she set out to really, you know, because it's even here on the back. She says, Leslie, or rather the dust jacket says, Leslie Hazelton remembers a day. I should backtrack. So here's a quote from Leslie. I remember everything about the day I bought my first car: the pride, the awe at the financial responsibility, the way I stroked the paintwork. I loved that car with an intensity that still persists years later. And even after all the fancy cars I've driven since then, if you gave me half a chance, if they still made that car, I'd buy it again. So, after that, the dust jacket reads, Leslie Hazelton remembers that day so clearly because while men take for granted the independence that cars bring, women do not. For women, a car means freedom. It means control over their lives. It means really far more to women than it does for most men. Yet for years, automakers didn't consider women when they designed cars. As far as they were concerned, women were not in the bleachers and men were in the grandstands. Oh, excuse me, women were in the bleachers and men were in the grandstands. So she talked. When she did this book, it says that she talked to 150 women all over America to find out what they thought about cars. And she said, what she discovered will make you laugh and it will make you think. And again, it really did make me think. It made me think about my relation to cars, how I always found them as sort of this mystical thing that I will never get and understand because I am a woman. And it's a man's job to know this. It's not my job, so I should trust men to do the right thing. But when I read this book, it was sort of like, Hey, I never really thought about that. When they do decide, design cars, they don't design it with women in mind. They design it with men in mind. Because if they did design it for us ladies, then there would be certain considerations within that car, that would speak to us and our gender. But we are in a man's world when it comes to cars. And so we need to sort of demystify what it's all about. And the thing is that, it's always nice to ask another woman about this thing instead of asking a man, because when you ask a man, you always feel as though you sort of resent the fact that you have to go to a man to ask them about what to do about a car, because you're trying to be, because keep in mind that this was the Spice Girls were really popular, and they were all about girl power, and they were all about, women taking control, standing up, telling a guy to flip off. I really don't need you. If you're going to be like that, I'd rather have someone who treats me with respect. Those were all the sentiments that were going on around that time. And I'd have to say the Spice Girls were, you had Gwen Stefani and No Doubt, and, I'm Just a Girl, one of my favorite songs, you know. But it was just like this whole thing with girl power. And, so here's this book comes out, and it's about giving us more information so that we can be more bold in doing stuff and taking chances on things that were normally in a man's world. It was that's what that was the groundswell. That was the thing that was going on back in the early to mid, and until the Spice Girls sort of left us all, and they broke up, and they broke our hearts, and they broke my heart. They broke my heart, to be quite honest, because I didn't take them seriously. I thought their song was really cool and catchy. And then when they sort of just took over the planet, that's when I was like, okay, yeah, girl power. I get that. And you would think, me being in the military, that I would, you know, get on that bandwagon of girl power, but I didn't. Not until much, much later. And then I became like this on again, off again feminist, but that's another topic of discussion. But in any event, so I'm gonna wrap it up here for this episode. And let's see. I want to see what the temperature is right now. It's 61 degrees. That means that probably by 2 or 3 o'clock is going to reach that 70s peak, and I'm going to be out there without my makeup, sweating to the. I won't be sweating to oldies. These songs are not oldies. They're. I have a really good playlist, and some may view them as oldies. They're still dope as hell, and whatever. I have a dope playlist. That's all I'm saying. So, stand by for thank you for stopping by for this episode of Behind the Green Screen. And for the next episode, I will get into the summer reading list of 1999. And hopefully, there'll be some of the books that I will discuss that you might add to your own summer reading or spring reading list, as the weather gets warmer and you go outside and want to sit under a tree like I did that summer. All right. All right. So take care and be safe. It's crazy, crazy stuff going on, but you know what? We're going to be all right. See you later.